Beatles remixes. Good idea? Bad idea? Let's talk about it. Movies.
Music and monsters.
Hey guys, Dan Monroe here, Media Master Design, where we talk about movies, music, and monsters. So I gotta say, I grew up with the Beatles music heavily. I was not a first-generation Beatles fan, but my brother was, and I would listen to him spinning his 45s from his room pretty much on a non-stop basis. I grew up in a very musical household. Both my parents were piano and voice teachers, and there was always music around the house. Varying degrees of music, let me say. While my brother was heavily into the Beatles in one room, my sister was across the hall listening to Helen Reddy and John Denver. My dad was down the hall listening to classical and Vladimir Horowitz piano concertos. So I kind of grew up with this mosh of listening to all different styles of music. I do appreciate pretty much all kinds of music, and there's really not a lot that I won't listen to, but I gotta say the Beatles has a really special place in my heart from a very young age. In the 90s, I did a lot of music stuff. I recorded some albums. I toured and opened up for a lot of famous groups and people, including George Jones, Conway Twitty, Burton Cummings, and the Guess Who. Believe me, it was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Anyway, the point is I've always had a really good ear for music. In fact, today, my wife and I own a voice studio where we teach voice, piano, guitar. Music has always been, in one form or another, my income and my life. So that puts me in a really precarious position discussing Beatles remixes. I'm not a fan of changing the past in general. I do not believe that you should go back and repaint the Mona Lisa just because you can. I don't believe you should go back and change historic books because it offends someone. The past is the past, and that's what makes us who we are today, and we can either learn from it and go on or repeat the same mistakes. So to me, the past in all forms, especially art, is extremely important. A few years ago, Spielberg took his movie E.T., and there was a scene where they were looking for the kids and they had guns. Well, that's offensive. So Spielberg himself went back and took the guns out and replaced them with flashlights. The point being, years later, even Spielberg recognized that that was a mistake, that he had changed his art. He had changed history. So he went and he put it back the way it was. Hey, George Lucas, are you listening? Okay, so getting back to the Beatles. When the Beatles recorded, at the time, in the early 60s, everything was mono. Okay? It was recorded in mono, meaning not two sides, not stereo, one speaker coming right down the middle. We may not have heard them in mono here in the United States, but they were recorded in mono. They were mixed in mono. They were mastered in mono. The Beatles wanted them in mono. Yeah, I know. Listen to the old guy talking about mono. But here's the thing, if you have a chance to listen to some of those early Beatles records in mono, they are way more powerful than any of the stereo mixes you'll ever hear, because that's what they were designed for. Lennon and McCartney have both said how much they love those mono mixes, even compared to some of the later mixes that were done both ways, like Rubber Soul, Revolver. They always preferred the mono. Sgt. Pepper in mono, phenomenal. All right, I'm getting off topic a little bit. Let me reel it in. So the Beatles had these great mono mixes. Then they sent them to the United States. And because George Martin, brilliant guy, still had some of the recordings on separate tracks, in the United States, we got those horrible stereo split mixes where all the music is over here and all the vocals are over here. But remember, that was a selling point at the time. And that was a big deal because you could sit down in front of two speakers in the 60s and go, wow, it's truly stereo. The voices are over there. How cool. That's why generally I tend to listen to the original British albums. They didn't have that weird stuff going on. So enough of the history. That brings us to today, where the son of George Martin, Giles Martin, has taken it upon himself to go back and remix all the original Beatles recordings from the master tapes at Abbey Road for modern audiences. Here's my point, and I think here is the problem. Let me explain. Now, there's no time. Let me sum up. The people running the Beatles organization obviously feel that these old recordings are not going to be accepted by younger audiences. Therefore, the younger audiences are not going to buy them. They're afraid that when kids are on Spotify flipping through, they're going to hear modern music. Oh, old Beatles song. That doesn't sound very good. And generally, that's why they're remixing them, to update them for modern audiences. Young people, new generations, money. But here's the thing. I think that the original Beatles recordings are artwork. They're a piece of art. They're a piece of history. So rather than alter them to fit today, we should be teaching the kids of today to appreciate what was in the past. No, Little Johnny, it doesn't have the sonic quality or the stereo spread of today's music, but take a listen to it. You really should learn to appreciate the past. I don't wanna. You see what I'm saying? It's like repainting the Mona Lisa. It's like re-editing Gone with the Wind. It's like colorizing Casablanca. Beatles music, to me, is a pure art form that lived in an age that is gone. But what's wrong with appreciating the ages that are gone and what they produced and the importance of what they produced? Beatles music changed history. You may like them, you may not like them, but you have to appreciate the fact that without them, music would be quite different today, for good or for bad. I do have a fear that with all of these new remixes, which are ongoing, apparently they're going to do the whole catalog, even though today you still can get the original versions, what about 50 years from now? Will kids 100 years from now be listening to the new 2023 Giles Martin mixes without experiencing the true Beatles passion and sound of the original recordings? Are the original versions going to be phased out and gone the way of Star Wars? Boy, I hope not. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like the new remixes. They're awesome. They sound fantastic. But that's not my point. Anyway, this is all just my opinion as a Beatles fan. Tell me what you think. What era of Beatles recordings are your favorite? Do you like the original British albums? Do you like what you grew up with the American split stereo records? Have you listened to the new 2023 mixes and thought, oh, the heck with the old ones, this is great? I just think it's a great conversation to have. Which sort of leads me right into the new Beatles songs, Free as a Bird, Real Love. Oh, hold on. That, my friends, is the conversation of a different video. So as always, thanks for watching, and if you're new here and you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe. Got new videos coming all the time. And please come back and join us again as we continue our conversation on movies, music, and monsters.
Movies, music, and monsters.